Your friend hands $20 to a circus store clerk and says, "I know exactly how much change you owe me for these, clown." The clerk replies, "Don't you want the deluxe noses too?" They blink. Will the deluxe decimal-priced blinking noses change how your friend figures out her change? If so, how? And what will the change be? You can use what you know about adding whole numbers to add decimals. To add the numbers 15 and 900ths and 741 thousandths, first write the numbers in the column. Make sure to line up the decimals.
It is very important to make sure that you line up these decimal points. You cannot add decimals if you do not line up these 2 points.
There is a blank space in the thousandths place of the first number. Writing a 0 in the thousandths place as a placeholder does not change the value. Start at the right. 0 plus 1 equals 1. In the next place, 9 plus 4 equals 13. Regroup. In the 10th place, 1 plus 0 plus 7 equals 8. Align the decimal point in the sum with the decimal points in the addends. 5 plus 0 equals 5. There are no tens in the second addend, so carry the 1 into the sum. The sum is 15 and 831 thousandths.
So again, you must line up these decimal points, and then in your answer, you just drop it down. So all of these points are lined up.
The diagram below shows the length of the main span of the Golden Gate Bridge. Together, the side spans add 686 thousandths of a kilometer to the suspended portion of the bridge. What is the length of the suspended portion of the bridge?
The length of the main span of a suspension bridge is the length between its 2 towers. This is the measurement usually used to compare the lengths of the suspension bridges.
So what we have to do in order to solve this problem is we have to take the main span, which is 1.28 kilometers, or 1 and 2800ths of a kilometer, and we have to add our 0.686 kilometers that it says up here in our word problem. So that's what I'm going to do. 1.28, and I have to add my 0.686, making sure though that my decimal point is lined up with the decimal point in this number. So this is 0.686. I have to add, and if I look back at my steps in the previous screen, what it tells us to do is it says that we can add a 0 right here and it does not change our value. But what that will help us do is it will help us to know what to do with this 6. So if I add a 0 here, I did not change the value, but I know that I can do 0 plus 6. 0 plus 6 is 6. 8 plus 8 is 16. So I put my 6 here and I carry my 1. And then 1 plus 2 plus 6 is 9. Then again, I have my decimal points lined up and I just want to drop it down in my answer. And then 1 plus 0 is 1. So my final answer is 1.966 kilometers. And that is the length of the suspended portion of the bridge.
In the example, you found that the suspended portion of the Golden Gate Bridge is 1 in 966 thousandths kilometers long. The non-suspended approaches add another 771 thousandths kilometer to the total length of the bridge. What is the total length of the Golden Gate Bridge?
This is a got it problem, so I want you to try it on your own first. Here are some answer choices. This is our correct answer. Good job if you got it right. Here is how we can get the solution. Here is the second got it problem for part 1.
How does writing a 0 as a placeholder for a decimal change the value of the decimal?
And again, I want you to try solving this answer on your own first. And here is the answer. All right, we're moving on to part 2. If you don't understand something in part 1, feel free to go back and watch the video again, pausing it whenever you need to and moving on if you need to as well.
You can use what you know about subtracting whole numbers to subtract decimals.
So remembering, step 1 is to line up the decimal points. Step 2 is writing in that 0 if needed. So this time again we are subtracting, and you do that from right to left just like you would if you were adding.
The 10-second barrier in the 100-meter dash was first broken in the 1968 Olympics when the winning time was 9 and 95 hundredths of a second. A gym teacher ran the 100-meter dash in 14 and 7/10ths of a second. How much faster was the 1968 Olympic time than the gym teacher's time?
In the 100-meter dash, times are measured in thousandths of a second, but always rounded up to the next highest hundredth of a second. You'd think the thousandths could take the day off.
So we're going to follow our steps and solve this problem as well. What we want to do is we want to take this larger number of 14.7 seconds and we want to subtract 9 and 95 hundredths of a second. Finding the difference will tell us how much faster the 1968 Olympic time than the gym teacher's time was. So 1, 4, 0.7. We're subtracting. Again, we're remembering to line up our decimal points. We can add in our 0 as a placeholder, knowing that a 0 at the end, when we have a decimal point, does not change the value. We cannot do 0 minus 5, so what we have to do is we have to borrow. This becomes 6. This becomes 10. 10 minus 5 is 5. 6 minus 9 is something that we cannot do, so we have to again borrow. That becomes 16, and 16 minus 9 is 7. Our decimal points come straight down. We cannot do 3 minus 9, so if we borrow one last time, that becomes 13 minus 9, and 13 minus 9 is 4. Here's the got it problem for part 2. I'll go ahead and show the answer choices, and I would love for you to try this on your own first. When I show the correct answer, it tells us that A is the right one. And if you would like to know how to get A, you can read these steps.
Little decimal, what's your point? Determine place values, point. Align place values, point. Place values in their proper place. Yeah, you, in your teeny tiny space. My teeny tiny friend, I get the point. The decimal, yeah, the decimal point.
Okay, so we already learned how to add decimals and to subtract decimals. So what this example is doing is it's just giving us some more practice. So if you would like to pause the video, go ahead, and then you'll submit your answers. Here are the correct answers for those 3 problems. And our last got it problem for this lesson, our answer choices. Our correct answer is C. And if you would like to pause the video and see how we got C, here's the solution. And we'll close with the key concept.
In this lesson, you extended what you knew about place value and adding and subtracting whole numbers to add and subtract decimals just as easily.
All right, so this is it. Your homework was just to watch this video, answer those got it problems and those example problems with an Edpuzzle, and to also make sure that you're filling out your booklets as we went along. Those booklets would be very helpful for you if you just took the time to fill them out. We will be looking at the homework part of this lesson in class.